Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel where we talk about Hungarian true crime cases, murders, mysteries and conspiracies. And today's case is going to be at times very sad and tragic, but on other times it's incredibly funny and almost ridiculous, but most of all unnecessary and uncalled for. As I was researching this man, I just kept thinking that this man doesn't fucking have 2 brain cells left. This is also part of my communist crime series because of the time period. Also, if you haven't checked out my Instagram, you should do so because I have some interesting yoga poses, watercolor paintings, and my furniture flips, but most importantly, my travels and hikes throughout Europe. Let's get started. Today's main character is a man called Krisztián Imre, meaning that Krisztián is his family name and Imre is his given name, but in today's story I'm going to refer to everybody as their family names, so I'm gonna call him Krisztián. He was born in 1919 and he lived in the town of Cinkota, which at that time was still a separate town from Budapest, but now it is just part of Budapest. And if you have seen my first ever video, I also covered the case of the gruesome serial killer of Cinkota. That was fucked up. His mother was a florist and he never knew his father. He was a prisoner of war in 1947, but luckily for him, he survived. He had worked as a journalist in a newspaper and he had also worked as a police officer as well as in a car part manufacturing company. At this time of the murder, he was living in Cinkota, working there as a police officer as well as this employee at the car part manufacturing company. People described him as handsome, talented, and at times he had anger management issues. Other times he was eerily calm, but he was not known to have any violent nature. Although some people described him as manipulative, other people described him as incredibly charming and friendly. So you can see he probably had some kind of sociopathic tendencies, but who am I to say that? He had kind of a traumatizing childhood of not knowing his dad and then being a prisoner of war, but he also had multiple times and chances in life to improve and become successful with all of his positions and his connections and his apparently charming personality traits. Despite his meager salary as a police officer and as a car part manufacturer, he lived a very expensive lifestyle. He had a passport, which was a big deal because back in communism, people didn't just have a passport and they couldn't just travel anywhere anytime. You could only go to the West every 4 years if the government approved with a limited budget. But Krisztián was in the lucky position that he was allowed to travel more often, and every time he went to Czechoslovakia or Poland or Austria, he would smuggle back products that were not available in Hungary and try to sell them for a profit. Obviously, this was illegal because he did not pay tax and customs on those items. So you can see that his expensive lifestyle of upkeeping a lover and a family and technically 2 households and also traveling and smuggling products all the time from his meager salary eventually landed him in a spiral of debt. And by 1965, he had mounted a debt of 37,000 forints. Now that was about the average salary for 3 or 4 years, so you can see that was kind of a lot. Unfortunately, Krisztián wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed and he also wasn't such a good businessman. So he somehow had 20,000 forints cash, which he wanted to exchange for Czechoslovakian crowns for some reason. I don't know why, if he had this cash, why didn't he just go and pay almost like more than half of his debts? But no, he instead tried to somehow make more money off it and somehow change it to crowns. So he asked one of his acquaintances to do that for him, but this acquaintance was a scam and just fled with these 20,000 forints. So there he was, Krisztián, owing 37,000 debts to a bunch of people, and now having lost another 20,000 forints to a scammer. On the same day that he realized he lost his 20k, he figured that he was gonna now have to steal this money to somehow get it back. With robbery, there is always such a slim chance that you're not gonna get caught. And when you do get caught, you are gonna pay back 100-fold. It is never worth it. Honestly, don't... What the fuck was he thinking? And he actually knew a place where he could steal this money from. You see, the car part manufacturing company that he worked at kept all of the cash that was designated for all of the workers' monthly salary in a safe in the office building. And Krisztián thought that the safe is not called a safe for a reason, and it would be easy to steal money from a safe. It's called a safe to keep money safe. Not everybody is smart. Some people are just desperate. Some people are just dumb. So he thought, nothing could be easier than to just break in the company premises and then open up this vault and just take the cash, and then there you go, I'm rich again. Of course, that was not what happened. I need to remind you that it was a very quick decision. The same day, pretty much, that he lost the 20,000, he wanted to commit this robbery. And it was on the 1st of December 1965, which was the day before payday, he wanted to enter the vault. So Krisztián finished his work at the police station in the afternoon. Then he went to Budapest to his lover, spent the rest of the night with her, had dinner with her. Then he took the suburban train back to Cinkota, where he spent some time with his family. But after that, he left to the cinema. Now, I am not sure if he actually watched something in the cinema, because that was between 10 o'clock and midnight, so it was super late to watch something in a cinema. Either way, after this, he went to his workplace. Okay, so Krisztián wasn't that dumb, and he took some precautions not to get caught. For example, he wore gloves not to wear fingerprints. And he did not wear shoes because those would leave muddy shoe prints, it being a rainy and muddy night. Instead, he wore sandals with socks, assuming that his sandals would not leave muddy shoe prints like how his shoes would. So as he jumped the back fence, he fucking stepped into a puddle, and his socks and sandals got all soaked through with this muddy water, and then he left all the muddy footprints in the world. As I said, the vault was located in the office building, and he wanted to open the vault with a welding machine as well as a drill. But oh shit, he didn't bring those things with him, so now he had to get those items from the premises of the company. So he first went to the locksmith department of the factory, where he would have been able to get these equipment. However, the door was obviously closed, and he had no means of entering it. That was when he decided to go inside the office building. I don't know if the door was open, or if he had a spare key, or if he just had a way to break in, it doesn't really matter. So he went inside the office building, where he tried to dry off his muddy and wet socks and try to hatch a better plan on how to enter the locksmith department and how to open the vault. He figured that he would have to involve some people in this crime if he wanted to get away with it. And lucky for him, there were 2 night shift workers on the premises. One of them was a man called Kis József, and he was the night guard on duty. And his job was to keep the vault safe, specifically from burglars. So let me just ask, Krisztián goes there without a plan. Why the fuck does he think that he was gonna be able to enter the office building and the vault when there was a guard? Kish was actually his friend, and he was an extremely simple-minded and naive person. Krisztián came up with this stupid-ass story to Kish that one of the senior managers of the company was a foreign spy. and that the spy kept his secret radio transmitter and conspiratorial and compromising documents inside this vault, and that they specifically had to open up this vault to get this evidence against this alleged spy. Kish, being the guard, had the key to the locksmith department, so with his help, they were able to enter this room and steal the welding machine and the drill. However, in order to use a welding machine, you have to have a certification. It's a complicated machine and it's a complicated process. So they did not even know how to start this machine. So that was when Krisztián realized that, oh shit, they actually have to involve yet another person in this crime. And lucky for him, the other night shift worker that night was a worker in the locksmith department, a man called Szirony István. And he was also extremely naive. So Krisztián told him the same story about this secret spy who kept his mounting evidence against him inside the vault. So Szirony decided to help them and he helped them use the machinery. Kish, being the company guard, went downstairs to the ground floor and guarded so that nobody would somehow interrupt them or catch them in the act, while Szirony was trying to open the vault with this machinery, him being a locksmith. This vault had 3 locks and multiple layers on the doors, so Szirony had to work so hard to try to open this vault. And the early morning shift would start at 4:30 in the morning, and by 4 o'clock they had only managed to open one of the locks, and they were nowhere near opening this safe at all. Obviously, Krisztián was sweating profusely. He was visibly agitated and anxious, and he realized that they are not gonna get inside this vault before the morning shift. So he decided to just end it right then and there, just give up the money and just abandon this plan altogether. So he went back inside the locksmith department where he fetched 2 hammers. And he went downstairs to Kish, the unsuspecting guard, and hit him in the back of the head with a 7.5 kilogram heavy hammer, which is like 15 pounds. And obviously Kish fell to the ground unconscious, though he wasn't dead. I'm not sure if Krisztián wanted to get rid of these accomplices, not to leave witnesses behind. Why didn't he make sure that Kish was dead? Like, a single hit to the head was not necessarily gonna kill anyone. But as we know, Krisztián wasn't that smart anyway. Krisztián then went back upstairs and hit Szirony in the back of the head as well, now this time with a 5 kilogram heavy hammer. However, he hit him twice in the head with the sharper edge of the hammer, so this was gonna cause much more and more serious injuries than what he inflicted on Kish. Krisztián left these 2 men bleeding away unconscious on the floor and he fled the scene. He ran outside and he got rid of his sandals, and then he jumped the fence the same way that he entered. However, this time his clothes got stuck on the wires of the fence and a piece of it tore off, and he didn't notice that he left a piece of fabric behind. He did not want to go to his family's house in Szingota, he wanted to go to his lover's house in Budapest, and he made multiple detours and he got to her house at 5:45 in the morning. By the time he got to her house, she was awake. She was getting ready for work, and he got home all dirty, sweaty, muddy, without shoes and torn clothes, very anxious and very nervous. He tried to convince her to give him an alibi, but that was not gonna be needed later on, you will see just in a second. The early morning shift, as I said, started at 4:30 in the morning, and the first workers who arrived to start their shift found the body of Kis József, the guard, on the ground floor, and then soon found Szirony's body in the vault room as well. They called the police and the ambulance right away and they were taken to the hospital. And luckily Kis József survived his attack. Unfortunately, Szirony succumbed to his injuries. As I said, he got 2 blows in the head with the sharper edge of the hammer, so unfortunately he wasn't able to make it. The police started investigating right away, and they found these muddy shoe prints, or I guess I should say the muddy sandal prints. They also found the torn clothes on the fence. The police was easily able to identify that this must have been an inside job. I mean, 2 of the company's workers were there caught in the act, so they must have been either coerced or somehow forced to take part in this crime. So the person or persons who actually hit them in the back of the head must have been another worker of this company. And with the shoe prints and the clothing, it was not gonna be that hard to find the third person. Guess what? Krisztián had a shift that day in the factory, so he had to go in that morning. And when he was told about the break-in and unfortunate murder, he wasn't a very good actor. He could not act surprised. Instead, he acted very unsurprised but also very nervous. It immediately alarmed the police. They could see that Krisztián knew something. And they wanted to question him, but Krisztián was not able to give them straight answers. He was all confused and sweating and anxious, and this gave the police a very good reason to suspect him. So they detained him that same day. He remembered that he lost the money and came up with this plan on the 1st of December. Now, the next morning is the 2nd of December, and by the 3rd of December, which was also Krisztián's birthday, he was in pre-trial detainment at the police. So things are moving quick, and this was not going to work out in his favor. While he was detained, he came up with multiple contradictory confessions. He retracted all of his statements, and he just could not get his story straight. In the end, he indeed confessed to the whole crime, and he told the police everything in detail. And his trial started on the 23rd of February 1966, so almost 3 months after the crime took place. And on the trial, this man had the audacity to cry and to sob and to even faint once, like he was the victim of this whole crime. He could not come up with a logical statement to his actions and to this stupid plan that was obviously not gonna work out. And he said that he was very sorry what happened and he did not mean to actually hurt or kill anybody. During the trial, the prosecution brought in a bunch of witnesses, people that Krisztián owed money to, and they all testified that Krisztián tried to pay off his debts with products that he smuggled in from the West, which was obviously an illegal activity because he did not pay customs on those items, and this alone would have added 5 years to his sentence. And Krisztián's defense lawyer did not try too hard to save his ass, because they had a confession, they had mounting evidence, they had witness testimonies, and they had a survived Kis József, who could testify the whole story against him. There was nothing really to do. There was no way to say that he was not guilty of this. The only little grip that they could hold on to was that Krisztián had a family and kids, so they pleaded with the judge not to give him the death penalty, so that his kids wouldn't have to see him die. His sentencing took place on the 2nd of March 1966, so just a couple of days after his trial started, and the judge sentenced him to death because he was charged with and convicted for murder, attempted robbery and break-in, and a bunch of other things. The only mitigating factor that he had kids was not enough for the judge to let him go off the death sentence, and he pretty much only had aggravating factors. This crime was taking place for 4 or 5 hours. He had all the time in the world to stop for a second, step back, and realize that what he was doing was wrong and he should stop. And about 2 months later, on the 7th of May 1966, he was executed in Budapest. But that is not all, so let's look at the aftermath of this crime. Kis József, the man who was able to luckily survive the attack, had life-changing injuries. He was always traumatized, forever anxious, and because of his head injuries, he usually lost consciousness and just passed out. Szirony István, the man who died of his injuries, left behind 2 children and a widow. And his wife was unfortunately not able to process the trauma and the loss of her husband, and she suffered multiple nervous breakdowns. Even though the company tried to ease the burden on his family, they paid off their debts to the bank and they paid for the funeral of Siroň to make the life of his kids and his wife as easy as possible. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough for the woman, and she decided to take her own life a year after the crime took place. She hanged herself in the attic of their house, leaving behind two completely orphaned children. And she exhibited clear signs of depression and suicidal thoughts. But I guess nobody noticed or nobody took them seriously, even though it could have probably been prevented or somehow helped. Nobody took any actions. That is all for this case, but I just wanted to share my thoughts on it. First of all, how dumb was Krisztián? Why did he think that a safe was gonna be easy to break into and that he was gonna be able to execute it in just a couple of hours and not get caught with it? He went there without any plan whatsoever, like he lost the money that day and he was gonna rob this safe that day without any plans, any real accomplices and any equipment. As bad as I wanna feel bad for the victims, how could they believe this story of this spy? Like, why would this regular ass worker, Krisztián, know about this spy, and why would he want to catch this spy, and what would they do with the evidence against this spy? I don't understand. How could they believe this? And therefore I wonder what Krisztián thought he would do or tell his accomplices when they open the safe and they see that there is no radio transmitter and documents inside, only cash. Because he for sure was not gonna share the money with them, he wanted to keep it all for himself. So I feel like he would have resorted to murder regardless of the outcome of this crime. He was not gonna leave witnesses behind and he was not gonna share the money with anyone anyway. And the funniest part to me is that Krisztián actually stole a box that contained the cash prize of the company Toto, like a company lottery game. And he did not know that he had a bunch of cash in this box, but obviously he was caught before he could even open this box and use the money for something. So he was just that dumb. And I just don't understand this sandal, like he didn't think that his sandals would leave shoes. However, I don't know how I feel about the death penalty, because look, I think the death penalty should be reserved or should have been reserved to more serious murderers like serial killers, pedophiles, sadists, and people who are genuinely rotting from the inside and are really cruel. And I don't think that Krisztián fits any of those. He was remorseful, he told the police the whole truth, and it was more of just a series of bad decisions made on the spot. I don't think that he deserved the death penalty. I think he deserved a life sentence. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think of how dumb this man was and his stupid plan and this spy story? Do you think he deserved the death penalty? Either way, if you have made it this far into this video, you might as well give it a like. Let us know whatever you think down in the comment section, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. The biggest help you can give me is that you share this video with only one person who you think would like my channel. Thank you very much for watching, and I see you next time. Bye!